Okay, so I decided to show you guys my switch out. Remember I was doing in the last two videos, I was doing a vacuum decay test. So I still have the blue vac on, and I still have the Testo vacuum probe on. And down here, wirelessly, here is the time. So this is hooked up to the Blue Vac Plus Pro. And this morning when I made the video and I told you what my vacuum decay was, so this is where I started, and I put on the vacuum pump for just a minute to bring the vacuum down and then shut off the valves. And this is a decay over 11 hours and 23 minutes since this morning. And we're at 900, let's see where we at, 663 microns. So I shut off the vacuum this morning and it was down at 140 something. If we go back to the chart, come on, go back to our chart. Here's the chart. So if we go back to the chart, and why does it want to, don't cancel. And yes, with the Android and the Blue Vac on this Android particularly, I have some problems with using any of the functions. So that is a little problem there. So we'll skip that for now. So what I'm going to do, this is live. What this reading is the same as this reading, and no it's not, it actually stopped. Because it says 900 up there. And that's a bummer. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to switch over. Let me show you here a little closer. So we're at 990 microns right now. And right now, I have the Navac pump on it. But the valving is off right now, and we're at 900. This was the decay since 7:30, 8 o'clock this morning. I shut off this valve. So right now, I'll just shut off or turn on this valve just to show you. Watch it change. There it goes. I just opened up that valve to the Navac pump, and you can see the vacuum drop. And you see the vacuum kind of stable off and hang there at 160 microns. Now, when I have a dry sealed pump, I'm used to seeing this go to 30 microns or below, and I'm using not hoses, I'm using a metal line. So what I'm going to do is switch over to this big boy right here, and I would prefer to have a metal line. I am going to make I ordered a metal line. I'm going to make up a metal line so I could use that for testing instead of the silicone hose. Now the silicone hose is better than regular rubber hoses. The silicone hose you could pull a deeper vacuum under. So I'm going to do that live right now so you guys can see me switch it over and watch the micron meter supposedly drop. So when I remove this line right here, which is this metal line that's going to the Navac pump, I'm going to switch over to the Navac big 12 CFM that's capable of going down to 3 microns. I'm going to switch over to this, but of course it can't go down to 3 microns through a big restriction like this hose. It's not metal. So I'll be disengaging this, so let me close this off. So now I'm shutting off the vacuum to the Testo 557S, and I'm going to disconnect it. Alright, that buzzing out of my ears. So let's go for disconnect. So this is the metal lines, what are far superior to to any rubber hoses and even silicone hoses. So now this is the silicone hose. Which you have silicone with rubber seals. They all have potential of a little loss to them. Okay, so now we're hooked up to the Navac 12 CFM pump. So this is the pump that we're hooked up to. If you want to read the label, this is what we're hooked up to. And this is what's going to be taking over and pumping down. So keep your eyes right there. And let me see if I could get this restarted, because this thing, restart app, the BlueVac stopped while I came in here, unfortunately. And let's get the Bluetooth rehooked up. See if we could re-establish a connection. As you can see, we're down to 272 microns right there. Starting, connect, connecting, 273 microns. So I think this is a little hard for you to see, so I'm going to push the camera down to this big screen. There you go. Now you'll hear the pump come on. You won't see no change because I have to come up here and I have to open up the valve. If I open up the valve right now, I'll lose the vacuum that's in there. So now I'll plug it on and you'll hear it come on. There you go. So now I'm going to open up the valve and you should see that drop. So now we're at the 12 CFM vacuum from the Navac. There we go, I just opened it. Whoa, what a big difference. Now they say the size of a pump doesn't make a difference. Well, this guy's been on there, was there for 10 hours last night, or actually 14 hours, or 10 hours yesterday, 11 hours today, and we were only pulling down to 150 microns. So now I just put this pump on live in front of you. I swapped over live. So I disconnected this pump that was through this on the metal line. I hooked up to this pump right here. And what do we got? 23 microns. And what do we have right there? 22 microns. We're now pulling down to 22 microns using this pump. So let's pull up the Testo vacuum gauge, and I'll use, I was just watching live HVAC Overtime. They had Bill Spoon on there. So for you automotive guys, I know commercial and residential HVAC, you think it's not part of your game because you're an automotive technician. But unfortunately, what is going on into cars now has everything to do with residential and commercial HVAC, because now they have heat pumps inside cars. So I would highly recommend you guys start to watch some HVAC channels if you want to do air conditioning and get to know air conditioning really good. And because that's where the future is going. And if you don't know your HVAC well, you won't be able to work on cars in the future. Right now, I'm just releasing a video on an Audi Q5 heat pump heat recovery system that will more complicated than any Daikin or Mitsubishi, LG or Samsung heat pump or heat recovery system. Way more complicated. It's just convolutedly overcomplicated. They made a mess of it. When you let automotive guys try to reinvent air conditioning and heating and heat recovery systems, you got a nightmare. So we're down to 16 microns, going into 15 microns right now. And let's bring up the Testo app. Testo, right there. Updating refrigerants. Okay, I gotta shut off. Now this was a problem I'm having with the 557S. It keeps updating refrigerants and it locks up. At this time it basically kills my phone, kills the Testo app, and basically makes the, I can't do any of the functions. It's just stuck there and it'll keep boot looping like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to turn off the gauge so I could use my phone. Otherwise I can't use any feature as long as this is on. Now I can't even shut it off. It's just stuck. Okay, so let me kill this. I'm going to kill this app because I think while they're connected it keeps trying to go into updating refrigerants, and it locks up my phone and it locks up my gauge. So we'll just keep on waiting there. Okay, now I can shut it off. So now I'll shut off the gauge. Now I could turn on, now I'll turn on the Testo app. Okay, and it shows, see, hello, let me kill the light. Let me put my finger over the light. Come on, zoom in on my phone is washing it out. There you go. 11 microns. So at the Testo refrigerant gauge, it's 11 microns. At the BlueVac Plus Pro, it's 12 microns. So we're within a micron of each other. And that's the capability of this vacuum pump right there. This vacuum pump compared to other vacuum pumps is kind of a night and day thing, as I just proved by unhooking one and rehooking up the other one. So there you go. You get to see a side to side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill the vacuum and perform another vacuum decay test so we could read it out on a graph. And let's go over here to the graph. There we go. So that's where I started, where it was at couple hundred microns, and then you see as soon as I turned it on, you get to see the drop, and then you see the steady decline as it's going down. And so it'll probably bottom up somewhere around 10 microns or so after about 45 minutes or so. And what I'll do is, when I get her, if I get to 10 microns, I will shut off the valve on the manifold right there. I'll shut off the vacuum source. So I'll tee this off and I'll shut it off, and I'll let it set overnight, and we'll see what the drawdown is over that. I'm very impressed with this. You know what I gotta say? None of my Testo manifolds before ever passed this test. None of them. Even my 570, immediately I had to rebuild it. My 570 I had to send in to Testo to be rebuilt twice because I told them there was a problem with it, and it was bypassing refrigerant and it was bypassing vacuum. And they didn't believe me, and I ran some tests and I showed them some pictures, and they said, okay, send it in. And before I sent it in, I took my 570 apart, and the 570 also has valves similar to this. And what I discovered when I took apart, there was, when they assembled them brand new out of the box, they had some nicks on the O-rings. So they must have been on a real hurry shoving these into the manifolds, and they had nicks on them. So I sent it to Testo, because at the very beginning when the 570 first came out, they didn't want to sell me the valves. They told me I had to send my gauge in, and they had to calibrate it and check it and all that bullshit. So I did, and they changed them. It came back, it was still leaking, and they showed me some little graph where it passed. I did my own test, it didn't pass. I took them back out, and I found another nick on another valve after sending it back. After 2 times of that, I said, tell you what, I don't want to send my 570 back to you. You just sell me the valves, I'll do it myself. So I took it apart, they sold me the valves, and I put silicone grease on them in the grooves. I carefully put them back in, never had a problem ever since. And that's why when I finally bought the field piece, there's the very first 3-port manifold field piece. I bought them when they first came out. Remember, you guys who bought them, remember the snapping gauges? The temperature clamps would just snap all by themselves. They were breaking left and right, and they had a recall, and they would actually give you new ones. You turned the old ones in, they'd give you new ones. They're snapping all the time. You'd be driving in your truck, and all of a sudden you would hear the snap sound, and you might look behind you, and all of a sudden you'll see your gauge just hanging there with a broken handle. The handles would just break and explode all by themselves. I got to witness it twice right in front of me where the handle just exploded. So yeah, same with the field piece. They would not pass a vacuum test, and actually this Testo has held a deeper vacuum for a longer period of time than any previous Testo I ever owned, or any previous or current field piece that I own, because I always go through them and end up having to put silicone grease on the valve seals inside the little drums, the little pistons here, to make them actually pass this test as well as this one has done right now. So tomorrow morning, since now with this other vacuum pump over there, now that we could go down to 10 microns, there we are, we're at 10 microns. And that's my isolation telling me that I'm way down there on vacuum, and it's ready to start a isolation test. And it gives you an audible beep with a little flashing light. And so I will turn this off in another, say, 15 minutes or so, and then tomorrow morning come back again and show you guys on a graph the decay rate on this new manifold, the 557S. Alright guys, I will see you guys mañana, and we will see the decay on this. Adios. Good luck guys. Let's see what we got.